really fast?
I think I underestimated attendance.
We will rent. So I'm gonna bring in a few chairs from outside. I can carry those. So Coleman, how are we sounding? Do you need me to adjust anything on the computer? Do you need me to adjust anything, or we feel good to go? All right.
Best part of every meeting.
So Sideball gets the honors of actually doing the proper opening, but I will do a pre-opening of welcoming all of you to GDT's inaugural meeting at our new space here in Jasper Towers. Thank you all for braving the elevator journey. I'm aware that the code thing is really finicky, so if you had like exceptionally worse problems and stuff like that, talk to me afterwards. We're going to find a way to refine that. But we've got a hell of an agenda for tonight. I'm going to hand it off to Saigo to kick it off.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Welcome to the first GDT meeting at our new home, Jasper Towers. We have a very packed agenda. I also see a lot of folks standing. Note there are chairs outside if folks want to pull them in. Feel free to do so. I don't think there'll be enough for everyone, but also if folks on the couch, try squeeze so we can get a few more people in. Yeah.
Just right here.
There's room here.
I'm going to need to bring bean bags for next time, because I think kind of what I'm going to do from this. So.
Okay. Well, before we go into the full... Give it a minute.
Spots on the couch.
Yeah,
too.
lots of spots on the
we have
couch.
spots on the couch.
Maybe not a lot, but a couple of spots on the couch.
Yeah, these are for Brandon and Lisa. Sure. We can. Why not?
Cool. While people are still getting settled, a few quick announcements. Tomorrow is World Public Transport Day. So definitely take a video of yourself on transit, tag GDT, tag RTD, and I'm sure one of the two accounts will feature you.
Or tag Front Range Passenger Rail. They're increasingly featuring people now.
We have access to two of those accounts. I'm not going to say which two, but I think it's pretty obvious. All right, next we have a ton of we have a few elected officials in the room and a few folks running for office. We have a very packed agenda, so can't do full introductions for everyone, but if you are an elected official or you're running for office this year, please do stand so you can be acknowledged. Sorry for y'all are the reason why we do what we do. Without elected officials who care about transit and the issues that we care about, urbanist issues, funding for transportation, and especially for public transit like buses, rail, none of what we do matters. So thank you all for doing what you do. Cool. Without further ado, the news. So starting with a big one. Deborah Johnson, the current GM CEO of RTD, will no longer has decided not to extend her contract with RTD. What that means is, come May 2027, she will depart. Ms. Johnson took RTD from the pandemic to where we are today, and has hired some exceptional folks on the RTD leadership team, has taken RTD through some extraordinary challenges, so we are very grateful to everything that she has done and that she will do, given that we still have a full year to accomplish a lot, including big things that GDT is tracking, like the comprehensive operational analysis that is going to start redesigning Denver's bus network. The RTD board has begun a search, or will very soon begin a search for the next candidate. I think with those exceptionally strong folks on RTD's leadership team, I think we are well suited for a quick transition period, but I don't think it's going to break the ship by any means. All right.
So this one is Noah Spawnable. Noah, if you'd like to come up. One of our resident railroaders with GDT.
I'll keep this pretty quick. As many of you know, hopefully, ever since COVID, the B and G line have been cut back. The B line was an hour, G line is 30 minutes, when it should be 30 minutes on the B line and 15 on the G. RT, the accountability committee, dug into this a little bit. The audit committee, sorry. Because it's like, why hasn't it been brought back? Allegedly, we're still paying for it. They figured out RTD did authorize it. They just sort of, I don't know if it was like a handshake agreement or something between DTO and RTD, was that they're going to swap those trains for longer trains on the A line, but just on the weekend, which doesn't really seem like a full. They weren't even running 4-car trains on every train on the A line. It was just the 3 that they would have brought back on the G line. So to us, it doesn't really seem like an even deal. Like, to me, it'd be like, at least have all the A line trains be 4 cars. Either way, I'm on the G line, so this is fantastic. It's coming back, 15-minute frequency in June, and the B line will be returning to 30-minute frequency. Special thanks to Director Larson for helping out with all this stuff. Yeah.
I think that's about it. Yeah. Just 2 more images here. You advance it just 2 more times. There we go. Yeah, so the technical part of what we can see, these are images. The top image just shows you a graph of how many trains RTD has, 33 trains at peak. The thing that doesn't really add up about what's been said so far is just what the peak was before versus what the peak is now. And this is why we're so thrilled, is that Patrick Preuser, who's RTD's new Chief Operating Officer, even though he's only a couple months in on the job, appears he has already solved this equation, which is what we're terrifically super excited about. So huge props to Patrick, huge props to Angel Pena as well, who's the Deputy General Manager. And then I think the real question that, that Director Larson and others are working on is, in practice, money was not inappropriately distributed to their contractor, right? But what was really stopping RTD from bringing back the B and the G 2 years ago, 3 years ago? That's really the question that still remains at this stage.
Yeah, because we've been paying for it. Allegedly, they have the employees now. They have the trains. We know they have the trains. So, yeah, what's going on? But it has been fixed.
It has been fixed.
Fantastic.
Okay.
James?
Are we gonna get any money back?
No, we're not. Yeah, that's what the audit committee concluded is that there were no improper payments. That the payments were made in accordance with the contract. The problem is that the contract that RTD has with DTO does not allow for less payments for less service or more payments for more service. The operating rate is fairly fixed. So it's just a matter of, are they providing the trains according to what the contract says? And if RTD makes any adjustment, DTO and RTD had agreed to whatever adjustments were made, is what we learned. So,
Quick question, Mike.
yes.
I was reading the budget book recently for 2026, and it showed a pretty significant cut to payments to DTO. What's going on with that? Is there just a...
So 2025 was an anomaly. So you have to look at it over the last 2 to 3 years. 2025 is anomalously high because there were physical infrastructure costs and repairs that had to be done, or adjustments that had to be done. So, okay. Am I in front of you? Yep. So, and then yeah, just to conclude on this slide, one of the 2 leaders at RTD that we believe has been already exceptionally impactful in looking at opportunities and looking at tweaks to make things work better is Angel Pena, and Angel Pena has joined us tonight. Thank you so much for being here, sir. Thank you for everything you're doing. Okay, so fun news from my side. So the name of the train question, last time we talked about this, there were 4 train names for the Front Range Passenger Rail project that were put forward. The Colorado Connector, Front Range Express Destinations, aka FRED, is probably the most polarizing of them. The Colorado Ranger and Range Link were kind of the 2 more traditional train names. And after 25,000 votes, we have a winner. The Colorado Connector has won. Coco, you go train Coco, apparently. So that's. So yeah, so a whimsical name is what resonated with most Coloradans. But the terrific thing about this naming campaign is that it got this project in front of a whole bunch of people who otherwise were not looking at this. But this Name the Train campaign basically put this on the map of a whole bunch of people who weren't thinking about it. Now they are, right? And the hope is that as the project advances, possibility of going to the ballot as soon as November, right? This will be more top of mind in people's minds. That this will, in fact, with people's participation on it, perhaps make Colorado Connector, make the train feel a little bit more like it belongs here.
Was that your idea, James?
No, actually, no. We've got, this was not my idea, but it was a really great idea because we got 25,000 people to give us their information in a legal way. Give the project in a legal way. And we can continue to interface with them because they signal that they're interested. So we're not shooting, we're not shooting in the dark. We're hopefully not going to be annoying people who are not interested in this project. We're going to be talking with people and engaging with people who want to see this project come to fruition as badly, hopefully, as we do. So that's the goal over time.
Got it.
So I also get to congratulate Gable Patterson. Where is Gable? All right, Gable is the newest lead of Greater Denver Transit.
So despite the picture, I'm not from California, just really like California. But all I want to say real quick is just really excited to work with all of you and hopefully crowdsource some ideas on how we can reach out to more Coloradans, more just people who maybe, just like with this COCO thing, would not normally be associated or interested in transit. That's really what I'm excited and passionate about. So I know you all have ideas on that. And please send them to me on Slack or at my email, gable.pat@gmail.com, or just respond to the newsletter whenever you see it. But thanks. Wonderful.
So digital outreach is going to be an increasingly big opportunity for us. We get to make an announcement, hopefully at next meeting, about a new platform that we are collaborating with other urbanist boards here in the Denver area to create a consolidated urbanist channel across bike, across infill, housing, transit, all in one place so that people who are on all edges of the urbanist orbit will have a single place they can go to find out all the latest and greatest. And Gable has already been helping us enormously set the table for that. So huge props again go out to you, Gable. Thank you for everything you've been doing. So Emma is not able to be with us tonight, so are you cool to explain?
Yes, I can do. Okay, so a big thing that the City of Denver is working on right now is the Welton Next Steps project, which aims to provide a recommendation for what the future of the L-Line corridor is going to be. This report is expected to make a recommendation as to whether or not to remove the light rail tracks on Welton Street. This study is still an unfunded mandate, so there's an open question, regardless of what decision comes about, as to how and when that proposed plan will be executed. Our position as an organization is clear. Removing the rail risks transit deprivation. Without clear funding, it's basically going a step back, in our opinion, and for multiple reasons, and we'll talk about why. Well, one, we believe that a pleasant pedestrian environment can coexist with rail. It requires RTD and DOTI to be creative, but it is not impossible. No bus replacement can match rail's capacity and regional connection potential. And that, in a way, that can be locked with like a realistic amount of investment. And this comes back to the funding. When we are in a funding constrained environment, trying to replace the capacity and reach of the rail system that is implemented in a thoughtful way is going to be very, very challenging when trying to do so with buses. The city is hosting a virtual meeting about this, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. RSVP over here. Please share your opinions and thoughts about what you think about the corridor, what your thoughts are on the rail, and look at what GDT has put together by scanning this QR code, which talks about what good transit can look like on the corridor. And I think the big takeaway for us as an organization is we don't see a future that is transit rich without rail on Walton. So yeah, I'll give folks a few moments, and any questions can you entertain? Eugene?
Is this a study being led by Dottie or CPD?
The study is being led by Dottie, and there are RTD stakeholders present, and CPD, I think, is being consulted, but not a project leader. Yeah? Yeah.
Why can't buses just like take over this segment until the L line gets built up like 38th and like it doesn't seem like this line really gets used very much, but like
It's reconnecting it to the broader network, be it the D line, the H line, a new line, like holiday train. I mean, obviously, as it is right now, it's not useful, but it doesn't take many changes to get something good again.
So I think the broader push is for us to really think about completing the L line, connecting it to 38th and Blake, which is one of the few growth areas in Denver's real estate market, and where we're actually seeing population growth, which is very impressive given just the real estate market we're in right now, and the lack of new starts in construction. Like seeing 2 cranes in like one just section of Denver is kind of unheard of at the moment, outside of Cherry Creek. So it is a huge market. It has huge potential for useful connections to other transit like the A line and other connections. Beyond that, I think there are bus services on parallel streets that already connect to 38th and Blake. So trying to, I guess, run buses instead of rail right now might just be doing a disservice in terms of trying to actually build an appetite and culture around taking the train to connect to multiple destinations. Because right now the L line is a bit of a stub service. It only connects to the upper downtown area, but it has the potential to do so much more with a lot of investments that are thoughtful and not that large. So if you look at the presentation we've created, we've laid out an array of options which talk about streetscaping, but they also talk about trans-signal priority, connection to other lines, as well as a more pie-in-the-sky vision, which talks about having a parallel coupling or like tracks on a parallel street, so that we can actually run even more frequent service. But we don't need to go all the way to one extreme to get to reliable, high-capacity, frequent transit. And yeah, so our position is clear. We want the rail, and yeah.
So when we talk about the Northwest Rail from Boulder to Denver to Longmont, Denver to Boulder to Longmont, we say RTD has a legal obligation to finish fast tracks. Well, they have a legal obligation to build from 5 Points to 38th Street Station. That's the law passed by the citizens of Colorado, and that can't, only the citizens can rescind that, I think. Maybe the legislature could, but so taking out the tracks would like violate that law, it seems to me. Pretty good grounds to sue against that.
I can take that. So that specific law required RTD to finish the fast track system. However, it required them to prioritize the train up to Boulder and the N line. The L line was not prioritized in that, and also that law did not include a private right of action for citizens to sue the state. And in fact, I think the legislature could try to sue RTD, but I'm not sure how successful that would be. So in all actuality, it is like a very strong note from the legislature saying, please finish this. The actual implementation of that I would say squishier than you would probably hope it would be.
And if this gives you any comfort, I would say that the RTD board on this topic has been exceptionally engaged, that there's a lot of skepticism on their side that the first step in giving Welton an expanded transit service is carrying out rail infrastructure. I think when you talk to most RTD board members, especially the ones in Denver, they've been exceptionally at least nervous about that idea. So this is not something that is being led from inside RTD from what we can tell in any way.
All right,
So,
cool.
June, you were talking about SB 180, the 184 bill.
Yes, I believe that's right.
So I'm talking about 2004, the vote of the people. That creates an obligation to build fast tracks.
It does, but the actual ability to sue over that and hold,
Well, maybe not.
like really the accountability mechanism built into that is democracy itself, but is voting people in and out. Like, there's not penalties for failing to do that, right? There's not like actual legal penalties for failing to do that. There's obviously political problems that come with that, but there's no private right of action. You can't go sue RTD in court. It's like you didn't do this, right? You know, that's not how that worked.
Okay.
Yeah, last thing on this is if you do care about this issue, which I hope you do, contact your city councilor, contact your RTD board member, make it clear that having the train on Welton materially improves your ability to connect to that neighborhood and connect to other parts of the city. So reach out to different stakeholders, and if you do get the opportunity, go and take transit to the businesses in that neighborhood and make sure they are aware that you took transit to get there. All right.
Could I say, Jim, just to sum up what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the people can have a vote to have themselves taxed for specific services that they say they'll get.
Yes.
And then if they don't get the services, that's just too bad.
So the way that it works, to my understanding, is those taxes that are raised based upon that vote can only be spent on those things that the people agreed to.
Right.
So, like, say there was they raised too much money. They built out everything, and they'd have to go back to people and ask, hey, can we spend this on something else? Right? But if they don't meet the expectation, if they don't build it out, which is exactly what happened, they built out more of the network, and that money can only be spent on fast tracks. But there's no, like, legal impetus to say you must finish absolutely everything if you exceed expectations, right? If you undershoot. So they can't spend it on anything outside of that, but if they fail to build it, it's kind of too bad, which is
And then
exactly
they
what
keep
happened.
collecting the tax, which then has to go into a bank account.
And then goes to be spent on fast tracks projects like maintenance and other expansions. I know the state is trying to get it as well for the joint service term sheet. So this still going fast tracks, but you can't make money magically appear just because you say you've got a legal mandate. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not going to put money in the bank. You know?
If we had a public bank, we could make our own money.
All right, switching modes from trains to buses, I'd like to invite Chandler to give a quick update on Colorado BRT. And while Chandler is coming up, don't look at the picture. It is obviously not the 83, but
This is Colorado BRT.
Or 40 before you do.
oh yeah, yes, oh yeah,
It's Colorado Boulevard.
40, it's
BRT.
not 40.
I just wanted to show you guys how terrible that road is right now. So yeah, my name is Chandler Sanchez. I'm with the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. Yes, I am with the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, or SWEEP. We are partnering with the Denver Streets Partnership on the Colorado Boulevard BRT, which has kind of started undergoing the process of choosing their alternative designs. Let me just show you here right now. So right now, it's being run by CDOT, which is different than Colfax BRT, which was largely spearheaded by Denver. The big things here is that there are essentially two alternatives that are real BRT, which means that the bus has a right-of-way lane. That's going to be side running, and then a hybrid center and side running. Or there's mixed flow. Those are the three that CDOT is considering right now. We don't have specific dates on when these actions are supposed to be taken, on which alternative is chosen, but it was supposed to be in late April. That's been pushed back to early May. The big thing here is that there's not a lot of public engagement right now, and so we really would like to improve that. If you've ever driven or walked along Colorado Boulevard, you know it kind of sucks. It is not safe. It does not feel good to walk around there. Our biggest priority is asking for a dedicated bus lane to ensure that this is real BRT, but we also have a lot of other things that we're asking for CDOT to do, specifically to make it a much safer corridor. We have heard that there is some push internally for there to be mixed flow, which again is not real BRT, and we don't want to spend all this money doing something that is kind of half-assed. So let me go here. How do you get involved? Again, we don't have specific dates yet. CDOT has been pushing some of the dates back, I think for some other stakeholding. But we have a handful of things that we'll be meeting in the next couple of months. So we're meeting every 2 weeks virtually, and we have a handful of different options of how to get involved. Let me get the QR code here right now. Basically, it's a mix of engagement and advocacy. This is with public, the residents, as well as some digital advocacy. The biggest thing we need right now is support with engaging businesses and organizations, service providers along the corridor. It's a very large corridor, and it's Denver Streets Partnership and me right now. So we would love anyone who's interested to actually reach out to those businesses, talk, stuff like that. Again, and there's also some other needs with research. I know this is GDT, so you guys have so much knowledge here, and we would love to really just tap into that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. I'll be here all night, as well as scanning the QR code. And then if you can't, because maybe that's too much of a commitment right now, we do have a petition that I'd love to share with you guys. Yeah.
And yeah, stay engaged on our project thread on Slack for Colorado BRT.
But thanks for all you're doing on Colorado.
Keeping the QR code up for another couple seconds. And we're going to switch modes one more time to talk about the airport. And I'd like to invite Leo up.
We're back to trains. Hi friends, my name is Leo. I'm the trains and planes guy, also buses of course. And I'm jumping in and leaning into the our stance at the airport. And the reason I'm here specifically today, we had a meeting yesterday with the transit people at the airport and also their consultancy to talk about what's happening with both Pena, which is more long-term project, and the more immediate transportation demand study that they're doing. So what's going on in the airport is that they plan to go from 82 million passengers annually to over 100 million in the next decade or two, and then 120 beyond that. And so there's significant updates that they're trying to do. I'm going to start with 3 big takeaways from the meeting on the left, and then I'm going to share our ideas, which we've been spearheading. First of all, the NEPA study is happening. If by law or by choice is questionable, but as James shared before, we're back to a point where they're studying alternatives to just adding a lane, which is what we love to see. Number 2, this number has been in the master plan for a couple of years. However, they're still talking about getting their transit mode share up from 9% to 19%. June fact-checked me on the numbers, I think that's correct.
That's true.
So not only are they going from 80 million passengers to 100 million passengers, they're increasing their percentage. So on top of that, we're going to get hopefully extra people if they stick to their numbers and stick to their goals, which is where we come in and yell at them to actually stick to those goals, because we all know it can just kind of get dismissed eventually once they decide to move on to lanes. Number 3 is there were people there whose jobs are I do transit at the airport. I do transit, and I'm here, commissioning the consulting firm to study transit at the airport. So they are hiring people and paying people to engage with us and advocate for transit, which is really good to see. Our other side, for our 3 ideas at the airport, we want new parking to be at 40th and Airport, and then for folks to take the train to the airport from there. There's a mobility hub that came up in their ideas that we're advocating for. We want to preserve the A-line platform space in the terminal and not have a people mover. This is kind of outside the scope of the meeting yesterday, but they're thinking about having a rental car facility and having a people mover taking up that space. Lame. And our third idea is if they decide to conclude that Pena needs a managed an extra lane, make it managed, maybe have some tools so you can fund other stuff. I'll really breeze through, sorry? Like transit. I'll breeze through this other stuff. I know some of us can't see, but they were interested in signage opportunities. I kind of said, like, here's how we can improve the experience with, like, really clear signs and tap to pay and stuff. Anyway, check out the Slack channel, Pena Boulevard Project, #1, Airport Signage Project, #2, if you have more questions, or Slack me. Thank you. I hope that was not too long.
And one thing, before we go any further with the airport, there's a couple people in this room I just want to acknowledge really quick. First, Chris Applegate at the Sierra Club. There's been a considerable amount of advocacy that has gotten the airport to a place where we're actually studying transit. And there's been a huge amount of work between the Colorado Sierra Club, Green Latinos, SWEEP, as well as our allies at Colorado. We've had a whole bunch of us come together and have been pushing for why we need this, making a case for why we need this. And it has been a massive team effort. So huge props to everyone in this room who's been involved. Any Denver Bicycle Lobby folks, who I don't see David Mincer with us tonight, but any other DBL folks, huge props go out to you. This has been a massive, massive team effort.
One thing I'll add, in the NEPA process, they need to actually consider alternatives. So when you all put in comments to NEPA or to the airport or in the TIP program or with all the advocacy saying we want a transit-only alternative, the consultants who were brought in to take over the NEPA study looked at it and they were like, oh, people are asking for a transit-only alternative. In fact, a significant portion of the comments were asking for a transit-only alternative. 25%. Yeah, therefore, we need to study a transit-only alternative. That's why they're looking at it, is because people were asking for it, and by law, if they didn't do that, they could be sued over it. They have to redo the whole thing from the start. So that's why they're being serious about it, is because people ask for it over and over and over again, and that's our thanks to you and everyone else.
So my phone has been buzzing because you guys are doing this already and you didn't even have to ask, so thank you. We are still a grassroots group, we have no budget. The pizza comes out of my bank account, so if you had a piece and you are a member, if this is your first time tonight, please completely ignore this. Do not worry about this at all. Pizza is my gift and my welcome to you. But yeah, we fund the pizza fund ourselves, so paying a couple bucks for a piece pizza, if you had some, is greatly, greatly appreciated. So thank you.
And before we move to the next thing, I just want to acknowledge Leo and Chandler came up and presented today. And if there's a topic that you're passionate about and want to share with everyone at a GDT meeting, we would love to encourage more folks to come and talk. And if there's something you're passionate about, just reach out and we can make sure that you get a quick slot to talk about it at our future meetings. With that, I'd like to invite June back up.
Okay, so let's talk about the state capitol. Who cares about the state capitol? I do. Okay. So, also, fun fact, this is Mark Baisley. He just got nominated to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate. Boo! Okay, so let's talk about our transit-related bills and where they're at in process. The Home Act passed. Woo! House Bill 1065, this is the TIF zone bill. This is in House Appropriations. Now this bill has a fiscal impact, which means they routed it to House Appropriations until they could finish the budget and figure out what they're doing. The budget is in third readings in the Senate tomorrow. If it passes there, then it goes to conference committee. They work it out. Next week, I expect the budget will probably be signed into law. And then everything that's in appropriations in the Senate and the House, they're going to start shifting like 50 bills a day out of these committees onto the floor. This is going to be one of them. So we should see this move relatively soon. House Bill 1269, transit access, is in Senate Transportation and Energy. It means it passed the House, onto the Senate, so they're hearing it in its committee of reference, then it'll go to the Senate floor, then on to the signing by the governor. This bill was heavily amended in the House and much reduced from what it was to my understanding. Senate Bill 150, this is the RTD Reform Act. We're an amend on it. It is on Senate second, so it passed its committee. We've got a whole slide on it. I'll tell you what happened in Senate committee. But that means it's on the floor. They're going to have a big floor debate about it, and all the senators are going to talk what they think about RTD. So we expect that soon. CTO bill on bus staying is no longer being considered. So Sadly, the legislature is not going to step in to try to save busting this year. So CDOT, I've heard, is trying to do something about this, but that's a tough one. So the busting service was funded by a multi-year pilot expansion. That funding has run out. The legislature isn't saving it. And then undefined rail bill, and I can say that is a front range passenger rail bill, and I got permission to say that there is a front range passenger rail bill coming. Can't tell you what's in it yet, but that is on its way, will be introduced soon. So, next up, I didn't do the phasing quite right. I'll just put everything on the slide. So, Senate Bill 150, the RTD bill. Let's talk about what happened. So, this is the actual Senate committee where they were hearing it. On April 8th, it was presented before Senate T&E. It passed on an 8-to-1 vote, which means 2 Republicans actually voted for this bill. The only Republican who voted no was, in fact, U.S. Senate nominee Mark Basley. So the bill's scope included RTD accountability recommendations on governance and paratransit. I'll just say Senate T&E was not very happy with RTD, and that was very, very clear in their closing comments. Oh, hi, James.
Keep rolling.
Okay, great.
We've been disconnected, so I'm going to reconnect us.
Okay, have fun. So there were a couple amendments that were added in the Senate. Most of them were technical amendments. So technical amendments that were added, there was a technical fix on the redistricting portion of the bill. Redistricting powers for new RTD districts are going to be with the Legislative Redistricting Commission. So that's the same commission that draws all of our statewide legislative districts. That is going to be who's going to be drawing RTD districts. In addition, the bill now, it clarifies what a disproportionately impacted community is, because one of the appointees, at least one, must have expertise in disproportionately impacted communities. That used to just have a general sort of boilerplate answer of what a DIC was, but there's a much more robust definition in the Environmental Justice Act, and this bill now points to that. The most substantive change in the bill, though, was paratransit. So while the bill previously just implemented the RTD Accountability Committee recommendations on paratransit, that got massively beefed up. And instead of just being the Accountability Committee recommendations, it will now be a comprehensive paratransit study, which will result in recommendations, and RTD must begin implementing those recommendations by December 31st, 2027. One of the most powerful coalition partners in supporting this bill and trying to push it is the entire disability community. And they cited the Access-a-Ride and Access on Demand vote in their testimony, and it's why they're pushing this bill so hard, and it's why now there's a very strong state mandate for paratransit in the bill. So, and it's just, yeah, which we support, right? As we discussed, and as we've talked about in our meetings, the paratransit community needs RTD. And so RTD should provide really robust service, and, well, that's what they're going to get with this bill now. This is going above and beyond the Accountability Committee recommended. So, and then the final amendment, which I would say most people in GDT are probably not going to be happy about, is that Senator Kyle Mollica got an amendment on asking that appointees must be from geographically diverse areas, including suburban counties. So Mollica is making sure that there's suburban appointees on the board. Which there already would be with Dr. Cog, but that's how it is. So that is where the bill stands as of today. Some good, some bad. I would say mostly an improvement with the paratransit stuff. So any questions on the RTD reform bill?
Structure stuff.
Oh, this is unchanged from the first committee. So GDT's big ask was changing the makeup of the appointees. They have not changed the makeup of the appointees yet. But the big opportunity for amendments is on December 2nd.
Would you be kind enough to remind, for those who may not have been at the last meeting, how the membership voted in terms of the board composition?
Yes, membership was exactly tied on 5-4, so 5 elected, 4 appointed. Membership was very broadly in support of the 6-3 or 7-2 structure. In addition, for the appointees, the big ask for membership was, one of the things supported by membership was a City of Denver appointee on the RTD board specifically, which is not currently in the bill. The ask was that that would be a Dr. Cog appointee, which would flip to a City of Denver appointee. So, and that's why GT Leads took an amend on this bill. Leah?
What's next for the bill? Are there more chances for amendments?
Yes, Senate seconds is the next big chance for amendments. They don't do amendments on thirds. Then it goes to House Transportation, where there will be another chance for amendments, then House seconds for another chance on amendments. So 3 more chances.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something really obvious here, but if there's like 4 appointees, but like 2 from Gov, 2 from DR, 1 from that has a 5.
So there are 4 total appointee slots. 2 of them are the governor's discretion. The governor can pick anyone that the governor wants, but okay, it's a complicated structure. I'm going to try to run through it as best I can. 4 appointees. The governor is the ultimate appointing authority for each of them. The list of appointees, as a whole, the appointees must have collectively possessed expertise in finance, land use and transportation planning, disproportionately impacted communities, and I'm missing one of them.
Transit operations.
Transit operations. So they must collectively possess expertise in those 4 areas. Now, where the governor can pick those appointees, and also one of them must be a former or current member of ATU, which is ATU 1001, which is the largest union representing RTD employees, or largest bargaining unit. Now, where the governor can pick those appointees from, and they must collectively have those attributes. 2 of them, the governor can pick sort of at will. Whoever the governor wants that fits the bill on that, the governor can pick. But for the other 2, the governor will get a list of at least 3 people for each slot from Dr. Cog. And that will be conferred upon by Dr. Cog. They'll select their shortlist. The governor gets that shortlist. And then whoever the governor picks goes through Senate confirmation. So that's how that works. That's why basically one of these 4 is going to be an ATU member as the bill is currently set up. I know it's kind of complicated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any final questions on this bill?
We hate it. Fuck this thing.
We're going to amend on it. We don't hate it.
Yeah, the one other thing to note here is there are definitely very disparate opinions on this bill, and we as GDT love to have debate and dialogue on this issue. We will entertain further dialogue and have membership give their thoughts once it has left the Senate.
Yeah.
So
I will say, if anyone here just wants to get down in the mud and start fighting this thing like I've been doing harder than any other transit advocacy I've done in the last 3 years, there are a lot of city council meetings coming up. The current strat for killing this thing is to get cities to come out against it and therefore kill it in the House. I will be at Centennial City Council next Tuesday. There are a lot of city council meetings next Tuesday. If someone could cover Englewood, if someone could cover Littleton, you do not have to take the strictly GDT party line, because this thing sucks.
And you can also, if you like this bill, go testify in support of this bill.
Yes.
I want to be clear.
very disparate opinions.
GDT took our position based upon membership vote, discussion, and negotiation. And that's why we made the recommendations we did. If you feel differently, you absolutely have the opportunity to go use your First Amendment rights to go petition your government for redress of grievances that is in the First Amendment. And that totally applies here. So, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but any final questions on RTD reform? Seeing none.
Save it for beers. Save it for beers. Maybe a couple. All right, so next I would like to invite our guest speaker for this evening, joining us from the Gov's office. Please welcome Brandon Schaefer. I'll let Brandon talk about himself a little bit, but Brandon has been an instrumental part of the effort to come up with an agreement between the state and the Class 1 railroad, particularly BNSF Railway, for the Front Range subdivision that is going to form the beginning of the Front Range Passenger Rail project. So I have the honor of turning it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening. Good to be with you all. A couple of you, Gary, I saw last night in Boulder at the Front Range Passenger Rails Town Hall to talk about this specific section.
Stand over there and face everybody.
Can I? Okay. I'll let you put that next to me. Is there a camera I need to look to?
No, I'm not a second.
Oh, it's right there. Okay. But my name is Brandon Schaefer. I'm a special advisor for passenger rail and transit, really supporting the governor and his senior advisor, Lisa Kaufman, in the second term, really trying to tie land use to transit and transportation to make sure that we have better outcomes for all Coloradans here in the state. And so not only have I been fortunate enough to work along CDOT, my colleague Alex is also here from the Division of Transit and Rail, but also have been able to work with Deborah Johnson, Sal Pace, and others, not only to stand up this project, but also commence Mountain Rail with Union Pacific from Denver, Colorado, all the way to Craig. And so there really is a lasting legacy and impact of the work being done in the second term. And none of this work would also be able to get to this point without James and GDT being here, June and others, really helping to advocate, bring you all along, and bring your voices to the Capitol to support these projects. I'll kind of just tonight just go over what the joint service deal is. I should say deal, it says term sheet, but the term sheet really has all of the key economics in there and provisions that we need. And then what we're doing now is taking all of those sections, I think there's 17 sections in this term sheet, and we're just writing it into the access agreement. And the access agreement is just a fancy permission slip that lets us use their freight railroads to put passengers on. So we hope to have that done by mid-June. Just a reminder, this is a collaborative effort by RTD, Front Range Passenger Rail, CDOT, and the Governor's Office. We really would not be here if it wasn't for GM Johnson's leadership, RTD coming to the table with us for over 2 years to plan this, but also the Coloradans who've been wanting this for 21 years and have been waiting for the completion of the B line from Denver to Longmont. Just a couple quick reminders. So the goals of this is really drive for key efficiency. We wanted one operator on this alignment. BNSF didn't want Front Range Passenger Rail on the line, RTD on the line, and then the state coming in behind and also saying we can fix it and put a train on the track as well. They wanted one operator. We also wanted one access agreement with BNSF, and they wanted one route chosen and one alignment. The good news is for 21 years, we've known what the route is. That was easy. That's an easy exhibit that we got started on very fast. And then the other thing to remember is that we wanted a cost-efficient project, something that can be delivered with existing resources today. The legislature you all have seen are making cuts. There is not an appetite at the ballot box, a little bit with cost of living, to have increases on sales tax. So what can we do with existing resources today? And the good news is that RTD and their leadership, the board actually has really strong strategic, moves, because they created a fast track savings account a decade ago and have been putting money in that for 15 years plus now to save the sales tax that's been collected from the region. So the money has not disappeared. It's in an internal savings account at the discretion of the board to spend on projects like this. The other part of this too is this is the building block of Front Range Passenger Rail. And so this is really phase one, what we're calling it, of what we can deliver the first 3 daily round trips, serve as a proof of concept, and make sure that Coloradans see that their sales tax money is actually being used and leveraged for this service right here. Just a reminder, in May of 24, Governor Polis signed 2 new bills into law. I think both bills this organization supported. That was 184, which was the congestion impact fee, and then 230, which was the oil and gas extraction fee. Signed those into law, I think on May 9th, 2024. And then by that summer, that July, all of the principals from CDOT, RTD, and Front Range Rail in the Governor's Office convened for the first time to say, now how do we implement the law? And then from there, we submitted a report to the legislature on September 1st, 24, another one that's examined the resources, financial, like do we have enough money from the new laws that were passed, leveraging FISA to actually do this project? And the answer was yes, we have it. And then to even get to the negotiation table, BNSF wanted to make sure that all of the parties were working together. They didn't want one single entity left out of the negotiating room and at that table. And so we had to get an IGA across the finish line first before we could even negotiate with the host railroad at their request. And so in June of last year, a 3-week sprint, over 50 board members and I think 6 or 5 boards really entered into the IGA to advance this. And then by August, we were sitting at the negotiation table with BNSF in that August of 25 last year. This is the agreed upon characteristics of service. A few key things that I don't think we've actually publicly discussed yet, but the schedule is the same schedule for 7 days a week. We tried to get a different schedule on the weekend, noting that weekend travel looks different, but at their suggestion, they said, why don't you just have the same schedule 7 days a week? It's gonna reduce your capital projects, it's gonna reduce confusion, just have one schedule, and that's a cost saver in and of itself. The maximum speed, and I wanna be really clear, it's not gonna leave Denver Union Station going 80 miles an hour. This is the maximum that the train could ever hit. And when you look at the actual alignment, the most it can ever hit, even that speed, is really a little bit between Boulder and Longmont, but really Longmont north to Fort Collins is where it can actually pick up more speed than it can going through here in the suburbs of Denver. 3 daily round trips. State law said the state had to examine 3 or 5 daily round trips. The state submitted a report and said that we can afford 3. 5 daily round trips on the very, very outer edge of what we could afford. And so we said, that's scary, let's just do 3. We can stick with the resource that we have. And then we will have new platforms that are adjacent to the main line. This is really big because BNSF has said you can use our right-of-way and you can put your platforms within our right-of-way and have people actually get onto the train right there. That also saves us money and saves significant engineering costs as well. And so this is really exciting. There's going to be some work done outside of the right-of-way to support some municipalities with parking if they need it. And then we will also, the route, will use RTD's B line, which only goes today until 72nd, right there in Westminster. And then from there, we will have to tie into the BNSF Front Range sub. And then from that point on, we're now on BN's line. We'll have 8 new station stops. There's going to be 8 station stops. Broomfield North all the way to Fort Collins are going to get new stations or platforms. And then also on consists, on the equipment, there will be 1 revenue consist, and we'll have 1 spare. Initially, we thought we would need more, but BN suggested you don't need more than what we're saying you need. Like, that's a cost savings that we can save you right there. The other part of this too is that since we're having to procure or look at new equipment, we're also trying to think through interoperability with Mountain Rail. How many train sets do we need for that? When will they come online? And then also, is there new technology that we can get today to do the service? The answer in the near term, between now and 2029, is a no. An operator is going to have to come with the existing train sets that they have. But the state has partnered with Amtrak on a grant that they have submitted to the FRA this year for Amtrak to acquire a new fleet. We just sent them a letter of support, and that was it. But there's a potential that in the early 2030s, shall the FRA actually get Amtrak money, that you could see arrows maybe in Colorado being used for this service. And then 25 years is the term of the access agreement that we have right now. This is the schedule that we have. The schedule has been developed for 4 years with the service development plan that's been ongoing to support front range passenger rail. And so we were able to just derive some of these times straight from that document, where Union Pacific and BNSF have been looking at the schedule, working with CDOT, and we were able to kind of extract this also really early on as well. We already have the documents already there. So this is the train schedule that we have. You'll notice a really big delay in the middle of the day between 12:41 and 6 later on. But that's because we need to maintain a 4-hour right-of-way or 4-hour maintenance window for BNSF in daylight hours for their crew to do the maintenance work. But the train will start in the north, pick people up, go all the way down to Denver by 8:15, and then in the afternoon or in the morning, sit here at Denver Union Station, which probably James can see from his apartment here, or you all can look at it if you want to. And then in the morning, go back up north to Fort Collins, park in the middle of the day, and then start its trip again at 10:53, 12:41. So this is the initial schedule. The one thing that we would say is this is subject to testing. Before we even release the schedule, the operator will have to go out, run the train, see what the actual run times are. This is also, the testing just needs to be done first on this, but this is the initial schedule that we're starting with. It's an 80-minute pier run time, and then it's not to exceed 108 minutes as well. So this is also a really big concession as well. The dwell times we have, we're in consultation with RTD, looking at what they do for their trains, what they've also seen across the nation, and so that's also been taken into account here as well. This is the big punchline. I feel like we don't give this enough credence or enough impact when we talk to all of you about this, but really this lays out the cost estimates as we've known them to date. And the reason I say a cost estimate is because it's all been done in a study. RTD in 2024 released a peak service feasibility study and said for their service of 3 daily trains in the morning and in the afternoon, it would cost them around $650 million to do that service, and they wouldn't be able to deliver until 2045 to 2050 at the earliest. The state and state law that passed in 24 mandated that we also do our own financial study, and we were sent that to the Ledge and Gov office in 25. Our initial cost estimate was $885 million to do this service. The character, you cannot, it's not fair to compare each of these costs to the other because the services are very different than what they assumed. But what we got with BN right now, and what I want to be really crystal clear on is, right now it's $333 million. So that's really a big savings. And this also is a combination of 2 different capital project lists, one from BN and one from a firm that's supporting us on station development to really make sure that the service is whole. So this number comes out to $333 million right now. And then we are estimating for a yearly O&M that the service would be about $25 to $35 million a year. Now RTD, we're not asking them to pay this by themselves, nor are we asking them to pay this by themselves. All of these numbers would be split between different parties to make it more affordable for each entity and each agency. but really double the distance for half the cost is what we've always been saying. It's hard for boards and hard for the others, members of the public, to kind of keep along with this, but we've always tried to bring you all along, bring board members along and let them know we won't get cost estimates unless we get to the negotiation table, and that's why they entered into this unanimously, and I applaud board members who I see here today who voted yes for this. This is a lot. Lisa, my boss loves this slide. Much credit to Lisa. I also need to give credit to Lisa Kaufman, GM Johnson, and GM Pace from RTD, Front Passenger Rail, in the governor's office for being the lead negotiators on this. They've been at every single meeting. They've been at every single negotiation session, all of the follow-up to get the right exhibits. And so this is really how they, if they had to write an executive summary, this is what they would tell you all. The reason that we have this cost is because we were able to minimize the cost with the schedule and with how many daily round trips we were doing, and also when that schedule was running. So really, we didn't need to do all of these extra sidings to let passenger trains and freight pass each other. We built a schedule that looked also at BN's numbers and their schedule to say, this is when there's no freight traffic, this is when we can run our trains without any interference that we think today. The other thing too is peak service visibility looked at having 5 train sets in their study. We only are looking at 2 train sets, one on the tracks and one hot spare ready to go, which also reduced costs, but that cost actually isn't borne by the project. That cost will be passed on to the operator, and they will charge us yearly for access to their trains as well. So that's how we were also able to do this. And then also minimal station development. I want to be really clear that when we say minimal, it's not just a platform that you're going to walk up to and that's all you see. We are going to have wayfinding, security, there will be lighting there. It's not just a platform that you walk up to and then there's nothing there. So we will have this with a canopy, wind screens, to make sure that the folks who are riding this have dignity while they wait for the train, given any time of year here in Colorado to wait for it. But this is how we were able to get some of these cost efficiencies identified. This is the financial plan as it stands today. This is also public information. If you went to RTD's website, they post all their board materials. Kind of lucky to piggyback off of their efforts to make their items public. But this is the cost estimate for both organizations. So RTD, at the request of the board, what they've always told us is that they don't want to pay for anything north of their district boundary. Very fair. In this agreement, we've actually been able to enumerate where, like literally down to the mile marker, where RTD's region stops and where the state would start. And so all of these costs reflected for RTD are within their district boundaries. So right now it's estimated to be $156 million for RTD. This may be financed by how the board chooses. We are not telling them where to go find the money. That's not for me and the state side to tell them. They have accounts that they can look at and also work with their leadership team to identify this. On the state side, our cost is around $176 million, and this will be financed with Senate Bill 184 revenue that you all supported back in 2024, which is just the rental car fee. What's happening this month, just to make sure that we're crystal clear on this, is a really monumental month in the negotiation period and also for RTD and the state, is to go ahead and actually appropriate or designate the authority to GM Johnson, Piper Darlington at CTIO, to do this initial design cost. We won't actually get to a hardened number until we actually get to 90% designs on a lot of these projects. And so the numbers, when we talk about them, we've always been really crystal clear. We're starting at $333 million, that's our estimate. The numbers will shift. We don't know how much they will shift. If I had my way, no consulting firm or engineer would come near me and tell me it's gonna be more than this, but that's not how the world works. So what this is 5.58 million is inclusive for all the BNSF projects within the region, and then a few other dollars in there to also support station designs for this minimal station development that we're doing. And then on the state side, because we have less geographic region, our cost is a little bit lower at 3.8, but all this money is going to BNSF and to a firm to help us really just do all the engineering work. And then at the end of this month, all of the boards will appropriate the dollars, fingers crossed. I should say, actually, we don't know if they will appropriate, but that's where you all come in, and we have been bringing them along with us, but really appropriating the dollars for this. And this is the first portion of the project that's going to be allotted. And then we will also have a resolution that says from all of the boards, do you approve and do you like the term sheet? Is this suitable for your agency before the state signs it and sends it via DocuSign back to BNSF for them to sign? The other really important thing is that RTD's FISA account, the Fast Track Savings account, has $190 million in there. So shall the board want to use that money, it's there, it's sitting, that's for them to make up their mind. I'm not in a position to tell Director Nicholson or Larson here how to spend that money, but they do have enough left in there. The other part is that the state, when they passed 184 and 230, we wanted to see a plan from RTD of how they're going to complete the fast tracks projects. And I think we are getting to an area now where, as we study the N line, as we study the Welton corridor, and then the Southwest corridor, I think is the only one that doesn't have an ongoing study yet. But really, we still leave money in there, and RTD can still contribute to this fast track savings account if they wanted to, through their budgeting process, through the 5-year financial forecast. They can still plan to put money in this and grow that nest egg even more if they wanted to. So we're being really careful about what we say, and also just making sure that we are not taking all of this money from FISA just for this one project. It is really important to know that the B line has 35 miles left to complete. The N line has about 5 to 5.5 miles to complete, and then Alex, what is 0.8?
Yep,
and then
Southwest is 2.5.
2.5? Yeah. So very small. The B line is the largest one that's not been completed to date. This is just the capital project list. We've always shared with stakeholders and with board members and those who come to talk to us about the project and who we talk to, is that positive train control is going to be the most expensive capital project on this at all. This also is a cost savings to front range passenger rail. If the state and RTD were to put this down on the northern front range, that is a cost front range passenger rail does not have to assume in their ballot measure cost, and is a cost borne by others, which is really big. But we kind of just lay out what these projects are. So all the BNSF projects are PTC and CTC, track speed improvements, curve speed improvements, the Homestead siding, and then we have a tie-in connection at Westminster to do, have some layover tracks here in Denver, and then stations as well, Westminster all the way up to Longmont as well. And then also we've enumerated where the mile marker ends for RTD at 43.5, and then all the other mile markers in here. There's more in here that's not shared, that's mostly the cost, but that's because we cannot share those costs yet. These are the state projects as well, same thing, just we pick up where RTD leaves off and we go all the way up to Fort Collins, with the difference of the switches, which will help us, or help BNSF better dispatch their trains, and so that's why you see mile marker 92.2 way north of Fort Collins. And then we have a layover facility in Fort Collins that we will also be building. Another key distinction is that in the peak service feasibility, RTD assumed a Longmont maintenance facility. That was at the end of the line for their project. The end of the line for this project technically now is Fort Collins, and so we need to build a layover facility there, build the train layover, sleep in there, be washed, and stay overnight. This is our timeline that we are going to try and we are sticking to this. In February, we briefed all of the boards in executive session on the true capital cost projects, and a lot of the board members were really grateful that we shared all these numbers with them, and that we shared, I think, a lot of information that they weren't anticipating. And then March and April, we started to go through and start publicly daylighting these numbers. I think 2 weeks ago, we started that process, and by the end of this month, we're going to have all of the boards appropriate the dollars for design, say that they agree with the term sheet, and then we can go into the rest of the year. And by June, finish the access agreement. And then once the boards actually delegate the authority to their respective executive directors, we can then do all of the preliminary engineering needed with BNSF and the firm that we're working with on station development to start all this design work. And in the background of that, also start negotiations with Amtrak, or the operator likely to be chosen for this route, to start that negotiation at the same time. So there's really like 3 big work projects all happening at the same time. So when you call and email me, this is what I'm working on, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then by the end of this year, we want to, as best as possible, to line up with RTD's budget process. RTD, I think, releases their budget or starts that project in September, and then it goes to the end of this year. We want to try and make sure that our projects are as to the 90% design that we can. That way they can just put it into the budget, and it's an easier thing for them to do instead of having a piecemeal approach to it. But that's contingent on us actually getting to 90%. But by the end of this year, getting to this, and then a notice to proceed given to BNSF that we can go into construction starting in 2027, which is also really, really exciting. I'm gonna skip over, let's see. I'll skip over this one. Really, it's the same thing that I've been saying this entire time. And then this is the big warning. We always want to put a stop sign. Cost will change. These numbers will fluctuate based on the design and finding out all of the known unknowns that we're going to find. All of the Easter eggs I don't want to find are going to be found in the next few months to help refine this project. Some of the stuff that RTD has already done because of the peak service feasibility is at 30% designs, so we can start with some of this there, but that service was for a commuter service. It wasn't for intercity service, so we need to start at 30% for some of them and then at 2% for others that we had to start during the negotiations just to give us a better understanding of what we're dealing with right here. So these numbers will change by the end of this year, but this is initially what BN estimates the project could be as of today. This is our timeline for also the end of the year. I think there's two timelines, like one like really detailed one and one to zoom out. Spring of this year, term sheet will be adopted, shared out with everyone to see, and then spring of this year and through the end, we'll do all of the design. We will work with the PUC to also be part of this process because they will dictate crossings, utilities at these station sites, negotiations with Amtrak to get operating costs and an operating agreement as fast as we can. Finalize the access agreement with BNSF, finalize all of the station development work with all of the local municipalities. All of the planners from Westminster, Broomfield, Louisville, Boulder, Longmont, Loveland, Fort Collins, we meet with like weekly to kind of go over this project because you have joint service starting and you have front range passenger rail also in the background trying to plan and get their things going. And so it's really a lot of work for the planners to differentiate which project is which and how they feed into each other. And then we will also start lease negotiations with BNSF after the access agreement to make sure that all of the property where we're going to put our stations, these platforms, they're going to give us the access to, which they will. And then negotiate with Amtrak, take this to the boards, let them vote on it, make sure that they're also okay with this. And then come January 2027, we'll start construction. We will get a notice to proceed to BNSF, and then they can start their project. Start their capital projects. The state will start our capital projects. We will work with the FRA on a new start matrix, 156 items that we have to get through and get crews qualified, hired, trained on this route and on this alignment. And then to do all the testing, lock in the end run and our on-time performance metrics. And then I want to see all of you on New Year's Day, 2029, at the train. I don't know where you're going to be picked up. I'll be in Denver for it. Again, this is just another like zoomed, like this is even closer timeline of what we're working on, but this is really what we're trying to get towards. A lot of people didn't think we would get to this point. We had to ask a lot of board members, a lot of individuals to trust us to just get to the negotiation table to do this. Front Range Passenger Rail thought they would go to the ballot in 24. They're trying to angle for 26 as well, and all of that's happening while active negotiations are going on and coordinating 6 public bodies. I would say 5. I don't count the governor's office as a public body, but it's a lot of work to bring 15 board members from RTD, Transportation Commission, CTIO's board, CTE's board, Front Range Passenger Rail's board, and then get the governor to sign off. It's a lot of work that people don't see, but this is the work that's been going on for at least 2 years, with 2.5 with me, but 21 for the region and 21 for Denver and Boulder and Longmont. With that, that's my presentation. I'll stop. It's a dense information.
You take questions.
We'll take questions, but yeah, if you have time. You have time for it.
How long?
Maybe 10 minutes?
10, 15? Okay, I'm going to start on this end. There's a lot of people over here. Who did the Penny Boulevard one? You.
Thank you. You're awesome. This is awesome. Is there any? Thank you for outlining the minimum stuff to address. I was just wondering if the Union Station Y to back in, the reliability and conflict with BNSF there have with their rail yard. Is there any addressment of that in this initial stage, or you can just sit down?
No, the trains will be operated in a push-pull format, and they'll be coming out of the B line, just like the commuter trains are today. So there will be no use of the Y. They'll just come straight out of the B line.
Oh, perfect.
All the way in the back.
Thank you. So as far as platform issues, resident planner, I know that for example, Amtrak's current platforms are not electrified, they're low level. Are those going to be the only ones that are used, or are they going to make use of the A, B, C, and line platforms as well?
So they are platforms for joint service. They're going to be low-level platforms, which is different than Front Range, what they anticipate using. But for our service, we'll do low-level platforms. They're going to be modular platforms. So if you look at the Mardi Gras service and kind of see what they stood up in the Gulf Coast, that kind of modular platform, that's what we're going to use for joint service, just because it keeps costs lower. These station stops and these platforms will not look like the A line going out to the airport or even here at Denver Union Station. It's not going to look like that. However, in a full build out of front passenger rail, if locals wanted to have a mini Union Station in Broomfield, for example, the money generated from the front range passenger rail sales tax could be redirected down to the locals, and then the locals and front range passenger rail will work together to build out that station site. Our goal, what we have shared and what Front Range also wants is we want TOD around these station sites. The good news is Boulder, Longmont, Louisville, Westminster, and Boulder, or what am I Longmont, I forgot. Longmont, Boulder, Louisville, Broomfield, Westminster. They've all done planning for 20 years in anticipation of this. So they have studies, RTD has studies that have we've used to leverage what our plans look like, but right now it's not going to look like what you see for the A line right now.
And I'll add a few caveats. The platforms will be ADA accessible from the parking lot side, all that. They will be heated. That is a requirement of the Class 1 railroads. They don't like salt on their platforms because it corrodes things. That is in their requirements. So platforms have to be heated in cold weather environments. And the last thing is the trains will also meet the FRA rules in terms of ADA compliance for train boarding as well. So.
Would they be high level with elevators?
To be determined at this time. Exactly how that will be done. We have a couple tools in the tool bag. The train, it could be train mounted or it could be platform mounted.
Hands, Q&A, okay, you.
Yeah, I don't specifically recall if we talked about this component, but even though we may not get aero trains right off the bat, are we going to be getting, I saw something the other day about a new long distance car that Amtrak is developing. Will we either use that or something kind of comparable, or is it going to be kind of like the cars at the speed train?
It will likely be more in the variety of a single level existing on track fleet, Horizon and fleet.
Oh God, please don't stick us with Horizons. Oh God.
Yeah. And that's largely due to catenary height. I am confident saying single level equipment will fit under the wire. There's a lot more work we need to do to confirm double deck equipment.
Hands for questions? Yeah.
Yes, for that.
So I remember once upon a time in a magical previous administration, there was a lot of federal money for train projects. Do you guys have any federal funds going towards this?
This is non-federalized.
Oh.
The state did get a $66 million award with a $33 million match from the state for $99 million for this project, the Homestead siding.
And PTC.
And PTC actually, and it's on at-grade crossings. We thought we had snuck under the radar. We did not. They caught us. So that money's gone, but the money reappeared here in the project list. So it's not federalized right now. For all of the money from IIJA, which was the bipartisan infrastructure law signed by the previous president, that money is there. They did a $5 billion NOFO earlier this year that they took it's $5 billion total that they had. However, $2.5 billion was taken from California high-speed rail and put back into the pot. So basically half that money was under litigation anyways. We submitted small grants for mountain rail. We don't think we're likely to get it. Our governor and the administration don't get along.
I will say if it was that grant we did submit for mountain rail would address the why for whoever asked about the why. But
yeah. Okay.
Is there any prospect of getting dual fuel train sets for this, or just no chance in hell?
I'd love you ask that question. In addition to all this negotiation and work, me and Alex and others at CDOT supported Amtrak in their request to the FRA for money for the aero fleet. We sent a letter of support that also we did the math on the back end to know what the aeros cost and which options we would want. Shall FRA give Amtrak the money, then Amtrak say, Colorado, you get your train sets. The good news is Amtrak has more options available today with Siemens than they have clients and orders for. So we are trying to piggyback onto that option as much as possible. But that's not directly from the state. Amtrak will technically own those trains, but we did look at hybrid technology for those. Strong maybe. Strong maybe. That's all we'll say on it. I don't want to ask up their contract.
So I have one big question. Is that, so we have the 25-year access agreement. That's, a pretty long time, until, considering a 2029 start date, until 2055, just about.
Yeah.
And so, are we locked in for having our, front range passenger rail trains stopping in Broomfield, Westminster, Louisville, which is a pretty significant kind of slowdown in service for those whole 25 years? Or are we going to have the chance to just even separate out local express patterns?
No, so no local express patterns. This would be one operator, so that's why we say, for example, it's not RTD running the B line, their trains, the state running this service. It's going to be just one service, one train going to all those municipalities. We like a 25-year model because the previous model that we worked under, which was a 99-year lease agreement with Union Pacific for the Moffett Tunnel, nobody wants a 100-year agreement. We want 25 years. Also, we can just renegotiate later on when that time comes to extend that contract out more.
There's also one other thing.
Yeah.
So I saw earlier in the slides, there's essentially the operations bit about 1/3 each with CDOT, RTD, and CTIO. And so what if front range passenger rail manages to pass their ballot measure? Would they be factored in and have kind of those operations costs taken off of other agencies a little bit? Or would that be money only be coming in for extra service put on top of this?
There's going to be a transfer provision that will be added to the access agreement that says, shall front range passenger rail go to the ballot and be successful, that we can transfer this entire access agreement and transfer everything to front range passenger rail. And they will, all of the operations will be transferred. And so that includes all the capital projects, includes the operating cost. Now, what the board, RTD board has also asked us that question of, well, if you go and do this, front range rail goes to the ballot and successful, like, what does that mean? It just means that there's another person at the table who has money. Front range passenger rail doesn't have the budget that the state has and that RTD has right now. They just have a very small budget since they're just planning right now. But in the future, they could assume any of these costs in the future. No one right now in 2027 and 2028, no one is paying $10 to $12 million annually for anything until a train is running. So in the future, if they were to succeed this year and go to the ballot, if the board chose to go, and if the board chose to go in 28, even if they didn't go this year, these operating costs could be shifted to them, and that would be it. As much as, yeah. Yeah. Is that helpful? Yeah. Okay.
Hi. Great presentation. There's one area that I'm profoundly disappointed in, and that is that it's only 3 trips a day, and you're saying that's all that can be afforded at this moment. Is that without any kind of tax increase?
Without a tax increase.
So if we were to approve a sales tax increase, for example, would we be able then to get more?
You would, yes.
And so what it needs is more like siding places
Yep.
for it.
So we are negotiating with BNSF just for 3 daily round trips. It was 3 was not what we started with. That's not what we started with. So 3 was the concession from BNSF that they gave us. They want to be as collaborative with us as possible, and that's where we started with 3. Is it 5, 10? No, it's not. But this is with existing revenue that sits on the table today. If Front Range Passenger Rail were to go to the ballot this year, and if the board at Front Range Rail said, yes, we agree to do 10 daily round trips to the north, and that's what our ballot measure is going to cover and cost, then they would have the money to go and negotiate with BNSF for all the capital projects needed to support 10 daily round trips. It's going to have to be phased in over time. At the same time, we're doing some of these installation projects of positive train control, track improvements, curb improvements, building the layover facility up in Fort Collins. We'll run the service, but then we also need to do more work on their line to build the necessary sidings to support 10 daily round trips. Now, if the board says they don't want to do 10, they absolutely could. The service development plan, I want to make this really crystal clear with this group. It's a plan. It's a planning document that doesn't necessarily reflect that the boards are going to make all of the same decisions that are enumerated in that. It's a really good document that we have. We paid millions of dollars for it to get. But if the board says actually 8 round trips to the north makes sense, that's what we will fund, that's what we will go to the sales tax and voters, and that's what they'll do. There's a lot of sensitivity with cost of living, a lot of sensitivity with sales tax here in Denver and Boulder County, and so it's really also being mindful of where are these municipalities at with their sales tax. We're not the only people who have a project to do, And the other thing too is RTD, in the future, will need to go back to voters and ask for more money to support their service in their region. So it becomes an order of priority, like who's going at what time, and also what is the appetite of the voter and the Coloradan to support a sales tax. And that's where we're at. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll also add that most intercity passenger services, which it is a weird kind of hybrid. It's traditionally, they only start with 1 to 2 round trips. So starting with 3 is actually going pretty big in terms of the national model for an intercity passenger train service. So definitely want to get bigger if the taxpayers are willing to fund that in the future. But it's also kind of one of those things that you have to start somewhere. And starting with 3 is a whole lot better than having none. So.
Yeah, kind of like 2 quick questions. A, is transport going to pay for any of this since they're not going to have to run the flex anymore?
They'll still run the flex.
The flex will run.
The flex will still. Our Fort Collins station stop area that we are examining will connect to the CSU campus. And so there's mobility options, and also through Senate Bill 230, the oil and gas extraction fee, there's money in that 70% that transport could apply for and use that money from the state to then build better connectivity to that site in Fort Collins. So it's not that transport has to pay in the same way that RTD did. Transport never did fast tracks. They never asked the voters in Fort Collins to do this. So the costs just look different.
And then my other question, if you go back to like, you had the mile markers and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe the next one. What's that 90, what's that out Canyon switch? That's like way out north.
Yeah.
It's way out north.
Essentially, a railroad is a linear quarter, and you have to think about how it impacts operations elsewhere. So we have downline, by running passenger trains, we have downline effects on the freight operations. This helps them meet and pass trains outside of our quarter and stage trains away so they can meet their, pretty much what they have promised us, they're able to run and get the freight trains out of the way for when we're operating, and then fluidly move them back into down the line, essentially.
Yeah. I'm gonna come back to you, Gary, and Dr. Brad.
First of all, fantastic work. Thank you for doing all you've done. That's not a small task that you guys have taken on. 2 questions. First, is the FF1 going to continue running with the same frequency to CU campus as it does even after the trains start running?
I don't think we're in a position to answer that question. I think it's an RTD question. If they vote to go into the design phase and if they vote to go into construction, I think going into construction will then trigger a lot of implementation projects that will need to be figured out to ensure bus services are altered, added frequency to support taking people to the train station, and I'm also not in a position to speak for RTD.
Understood. Second question regards operations. As you might know, I ran passenger trains for 30 years, starting in the Cascades corridor in Seattle. Operations on the best of days were very hard to keep on time. The schedule that you showed leaves very little wiggle room, even with an extra train set, when you don't have sidings down line to be able to pass. I'm very concerned that we would start this beautiful service, it would fall down a few times, that would make the news, opposition leaders would multiply upon us, and it seems so optimistic to be able to run that schedule that we just saw in the real world. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm hoping that we can go after more sightings and get a better agreement than no trains will pass. That seems like a tough call.
I would say to that question, heard on your experience and heard on that. The numbers, the schedule comes from the service development plan process that CDOT, BNSF, and Union Pacific have all signed NDAs to look over the shoulders and look at their freight schedules and look at all of that. So this schedule comes directly from those negotiations. So we were able to derive this. It's also some days in the negotiation room, it's like a trilateral room where it's BNSF, the negotiation team, and Amtrak also at the table with us to make sure that the insurance and indemnification requirements, BN and Amtrak are happy, the state's happy, and everyone's looking at this together. The other thing about the schedule is once we start testing, we will have a refined schedule. We'll know exactly what these end times are. The other thing that's not, we are looking to entice the railroad to ensure that there are on-time performance metrics baked into the access agreement, that shall they meet an on-time performance, that there are incentive payments made to them, and that they've also agreed to disincentive payments, so that their base fee that they charge every single year to access their railroad, if they don't meet our on-time performance metrics, the state, via the contract that we have, we can reduce how much we actually pay them based on their performance. The other thing that might come into play later on is it the operator who's at fault, or is it the host railroad who's at fault for delays? That's a perennial issue. But even in this most recent winter park season, I think there was 0 canceled runs, maybe a couple delays here and there, but heard on that. Yeah.
And a couple things, if you go back to can you go to the runtime slide? So 80 minutes pure runtime, that 108 minutes, part of that is station dwell, but part of it is also recovery time, which was negotiated with BNSF. So it was a comfort level that those are the commitments we can meet and the padding that is necessary to keep the trains on time most of the time.
Okay. But you do remember the test train that we did up to Longmont?
Yeah.
And struggling to get up and down the hills with a single locomotive with just 4 cars.
That was also very different.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, even with the lower level cars.
This is why we say.
I guess I'm not. It's not even a question. It's a concern.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. And
until we put it in the real world, we aren't going to know.
The other thing too is that when the negotiation team signs an access agreement this summer and you all are there, I think one of the speakers probably will say it was a knockout, drag-out fight on runtime and dwell and recovery. Like it was, because what we are doing ultimately at the end of the day is setting up frontline passenger rail to succeed as well. And so whatever we agree to in this will also impact them in the future. So we're being very mindful of that.
My biggest fear is that we're going to irritate the voters by not delivering what we promise.
Yeah.
And that's what we can't do. We have to be good.
Yeah.
We're going to do our best, man.
I'll take one more until they tell me no.
Okay. Well, okay. I first quickly a comment on Brad's thing. The Flatiron Flyer runs 161 daily weekday round trips. I don't think the 6, and that's not round trips, that is single direction trips. I don't think the 6 single direction trips of the train will by any means change the Flatiron Flyer schedules. Right. I think that's vital. I had a question on operational costs. There's 2 different costs presented here, a total cost of 25 to 35 million, and then we saw a sum of 10 to 12 million times 3. Yeah, the second one sums to 30 to 36 million.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of slide decks flying, so if it says that, that's probably a bad mistake on my end, because 10 times 3 is 30. We also did this because we have to negotiate with AMP. We have to negotiate with Amtrak, and these numbers are public. We're not trying to negotiate against ourselves.
Yeah.
The number that we're showing is inclusive of one cost that we absolutely know, and then we think our operator costs will come in to fill the rest of that gap. Yeah.
And then kind of second question to that, this one's the harder question, is at 25 to 35 million a year, the per trip, single direction trip cost is $11,000 to $16,000. You can just divide that. And then the per seat cost is $41 to $61. How does that compare to other passenger services operated in the state?
There's a couple assumptions made in there that you know how big the train is. We don't know that yet, and how many seats will be there yet. So that's my first thing there, not to be technical. So I don't know that, and also I just don't know.
This is the 260 number.
Yeah.
That we shared last night.
Yeah. The 260 number also, yeah. I would never say that out in public.
I would tell you, it's real close to ski train numbers. So it's very close.
Ski train I think has like 400 seats.
420.
Yeah.
It's changed since I was there.
Yeah.
6 superliners. Yeah, honestly, for other 500.
Any other questions? Gary, I'll come to you. I'm gonna go to someone who doesn't. I'll go to you first. He gets me.
So are the locations all the stations? Is that finalized? Is that known? The locations of all the stations?
No, mileposts are not in the term sheet. Mileposts will be inserted into the access agreement. There's an exhibit that just has a route that shows the municipalities, and that's it.
Do you guys have any idea where the station is?
I would say look to RTD's numerous studies on this corridor, and you'll find all of the stations and locations that we're contemplating. Yeah.
Instead of using like RTD parking structures, right?
Yeah, in Longmont and Boulder we will.
In Longmont.
Yeah.
And you'll find them in the RTD zone. They're obviously we don't have those.
Yeah. We need to be really careful
Yeah.
with like where we put these, but because planners want to know, you want to know. We're being respectful of the planners to let them know what the costs are going to be, who shares those costs. And we want to make sure that every municipality is happy with where the station site is going to go. Any other questions? I'll turn it back over.
Gary, do you have the last question?
Has Fort Collins figured out where the station is? And have you given any thought to putting bicycles out of the train?
We actually amended our station location to help Fort Collins. We moved it, so we know where generally it will be. And then on bikes, that's something that we're being mindful of when we go to the operator, that the trains that we acquire have capabilities to put bikes on there, just like for Winter Park Express or Mountain Rail. The trains for that service should have ski, mountain bikes, all of that also on there.
And we'd expect, if this train set is to be interchangeable with Mountain Rail, if we were to be fortunate to get a train set, that is definitely something we could consider, because the demand on bikes, especially on Mountain Rail in the summer, is expected to be extremely high. So it's definitely something we're thinking about.
Huge thanks to Brandon and Alex for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. At the beginning of this year, the GDT leads voted that the Front Range Passenger Rail Project, with the camera, yeah.
James, follow the mic.
So the GDT leads at the beginning of this year, so I'm choking. I'm gonna grab some water in a second. We voted that the Front Range Passenger Rail Project was our #1 strategic project. It was our #1 strategic initiative for the year. So thank you so much, Brandon. Would you mind doing the first one?
Okay, cool. So next thing coming up is the next board of directors meeting is Tuesday, April 28th at 5:30 p.m. We have Director Nicholson and Director Larson here. So they definitely bug them with questions and ask them to vote yes on FRPR RTD joint service. Bug them today, bug them going forward, and find your directors and bug them too, because getting this train built is our #1 priority. Feel?
Yeah, now that I'm not choking. Okay, so Emma put together, and she sends her regards, she wishes she could be with us tonight, a transit-oriented hike at the end of this month, so this is Saturday the 25th. For those of you who are local, we've got a very mildly paced, very inclusive, very doable hike we're going to be doing in Jefferson County, taking the W to the Flex Ride, same day trip, bring water, bring your basics. This is not a, we're not climbing a 14er. So something that is a couple of miles. We're going to be looking at the weather and making a final go, no-go decision probably on Wednesday or Thursday. But highly recommend this as a fun way to kick off the hiking season. Okay, and then even bigger, so mark your calendars, we have confirmed our trip dates for the big grand tour of the Pacific Northwest. We are going up to Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, and we're going to do all of those cities by train. And we're going to be doing this August 21st through 23rd. Is going to be the core days of the GDT trip. We are recommending that people fly out to Portland on Thursday, and then there will be an optional leg at the end for Vancouver. So we'll be sharing more details with all of you on the Slack. This is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time, and now that finally Seattle has opened their floating light rail bridge, it's going to be a huge opportunity for us to take a look at that. And also, hopefully, if we are lucky, one of the legs of our trip will be riding on one of these bad boys, the Siemens Aero sets that are going into service. We think in June or July. So it's a bit of a stretch, but we're going to roll the dice and see if we get lucky.
Also, a great opportunity to meet some of our advocacy peers in Seattle.
Oh yes, and I should mention, yeah, our allies at the Seattle Subway, the Seattle Transit blog, and there may be whispers that there may be some people in Vancouver who know about us and want to meet us. So that would be really cool too. So more to come on all of that. Check the Slack this week. And then the last slide, I will turn over to Mr. Gable. Sorry, giving you the runaround, like literally.
Yeah.
So.
All right, everybody. It's that time of the regular scheduled programming where we talk about frequency, which is our newsletter.
Don't we always talk about frequency?
You said what?
Don't we always talk about frequency?
We do talk about frequency
This
all
is
the
your
time.
frequency.
Yes, this is a different kind of frequency. This frequency comes at once email per month, which is terrible for everything but a newsletter, right? So you have a QR code here, but actually forget about that QR code because I forgot to update it.
I fixed it.
Oh, you fixed it. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
So that one actually is correct now, but there's also a QR code in the back that is permanent. So if for some reason you can't reach this because you're way over there, feel free to scan that code. And this is just a monthly update on everything GDT is doing and everything you can get involved in, and even some stuff from our partners like YIMBY Denver, Denver Streets Partnership, DBL, Denver Bike Lobby, etc. So all the important things that are coming up in the month to come. So I'm going to give you a second if you want to scan that one, but also just know that there is this QR code in the back as well. So, wonderful. Going to give you like 30 seconds. Do you have like the Jeopardy theme we can play? There we go.
That's a good whistle.
Can you be offline with whistling? Is that possible?
Yes.
I don't know. Everyone looks pretty good.
Here, by the way.
Great.
All right.
And that's it.
So that's our programming for this evening. Thank you all so much for joining us. We can socialize for a little bit, then we're going to get drinks across the street at Terminal Bar. So enjoy yourselves, everyone.
Outstanding meeting. You got to go. It's a pleasure to have you.